I feel like I'm probably the most toured out free surfer.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it's just like, yeah, I don't know why, but I do feel like I still surf a lot of waves. Like I'm on tour, like big open first turn and this and change variety. And like, yeah, I definitely like live by the criteria still.
Okay.
Which is not a terrible thing. Because the tour does teach you so many great things, you know?
Yeah.
And even like competition teaches you such good human qualities. You know? It gives you determination and goals and humbleness. And like, I would never, ever discredit the tour. It's done everything and more for me.
Yeah.
And and a lot of free surfers are like the core lords, you know, that are like laugh at competitors. But it's like, I don't know, at the same time, the tour has like groomed me to be who I am today. And yeah.
Are you ready, boys? Start swimming.
That was Coco Ho. I'm Jamie Brisick, and this is Soundings, brought to you by the Surfer's Journal. The Journal is a member-supported publication made possible by sponsorship from FCS, Finisterre, Howler Brothers, Patagonia, Rainbow, Vans, and Yeti. More like a book than a magazine, the Journal delivers 136 pages of independent storytelling every 8 weeks, covering the people, culture, travel, and art of surfing. If you want to learn more, if you'd like to subscribe, please visit surfersjournal.com. Coco is the sister of Mason Ho, the daughter of Michael Ho, the niece of the late Derek Ho, and the cousin of Makoa Ho, which is to say that she comes from rich, deep, prodigiously talented surfing blood, Hawaiian surfing blood. Born in 1991 in Honolulu, Coco started surfing at age 7 and quickly shot up the amateur ranks. She qualified for the 2009 Pro Tour at age 18, finished the year ranked number 4, and was named the Women's WCT Rookie of the Year. She finished number 6 in the world in 2011 and number 6 again in 2013. She was on tour up until 2019. Since then, she's mostly been a free surfer. Coco is a surfer's surfer. She has a massive social media following. Coco has appeared in numerous web clips and was featured in the Nike-funded all-girls surf video Leave a Message in 2011. She also had a brief part in the 2002 Hollywood production Blue Crush. She made Surf World headlines for Surfing Nude in ESPN's 2014 Body issue, along with swimmer Michael Phelps, tennis star Venus Williams, and running back Marshawn Lynch. I met up with Coco at the Four Seasons Surfing Champions Trophy in the Maldives, where our base camp was the luxurious Four Seasons Kutahura. Coco and I chatted under an umbrella in the basking hot sun. On one side of us was an infinity pool where guests sipped fruity cocktails. On the other was that distinctly Maldivian shade of turquoise sea stretching to the horizon. Her brother Mason was on the trip. On the outer reef was a closeout barrel over dry reef, which of course Mason had his eye on. Coco was on fire throughout the event. She had a heat with her brother Mason where they rode waves back to back. The announcers called out the scores. Coco's higher than Mason's. So now Mason needs a 7-point-something or other to take the lead over Coco, they said. I was out in the water watching, and as she paddled past, she laughed aloud, looked at me, and smiled and said, I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. Coco, we are sitting right on the ocean here at Four Seasons Kutahura in the Maldives. We're here for the Surfing Trophy contest. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Couldn't be in a better location.
It's kind of incredible. So let's start right in the present. So we've been here at the contest. There's been a single fin, twin, and 3-fin division. And yesterday you beat your brother.
Yep. This would be one of the first events that we got to compete with each other. You know, we've always done the QS, and through growing up, we did NSSA, and we're all age difference, so we would never compete against each other. So yeah, this one was really funny, seeing each other's names in the draw. in the same heat. And yeah, yesterday it was really, really fun because I won.
It
No,
was
I'm
so
kidding.
cool. I swam out in the water, and without a camera or anything, I just wanted to be closer to watch it all.
Aw.
And it's also, the water is so clear, so without even a mask or goggles, I could see your fins going by as I swam under. But I remember watching, there was one wave where you guys went right after one another, and knowing a little bit about your history, I was thinking this is almost like the story of how it all went, because I think maybe he went first and you went second. But in any case, your brother got you into surfing, as I understand it.
Absolutely. Growing up on the North Shore, the thing to do after school was go to the beach. We'd go to Mother's Beach, which is inside Sunset, and we would kind of just play, and Mason would surf. I'd be on a boogie board, riding whitewater, starting to stand up, try to spin. And once he kind of realized that, he's like, "Oh, you got that already. Like, you look bored on the bodyboard." He was like, "Try my surfboard." So it kind of started like that, just like each other teaching, like him teaching me. And then my dad noticed, like, oh, she wants to try, she wants to learn. And he got me a board for Christmas. And then he pushed me into my first like real wave at Sunset Point, probably when I was 7 years old. Yeah.
Wow. And before that, did you skateboard? Did you do anything that sort of led you into it?
Yeah, definitely skateboard first, all of us. We lived on a really cool cul-de-sac as well. So we'd just ride down the hill, pretend it was a wave. And yeah, definitely got the like feeling there first. And yeah, it translated pretty easily onto a surfboard.
And so you've got your father as pipeline champion, Triple Crown champ, like one of the great surfers of a era. And then you've got your uncle who was first Hawaiian world champion.
Yep.
Did it feel like, as you were doing it, obviously like they would have been encouraging and stoked to see young Coco
Yeah.
following in the footsteps?
Yeah, I think as a kid, they were so into their careers still, even into their 30s, 40s. So they weren't really like really taking us serious. Like, oh, maybe they'll be pro surfers one day. They were just like, I'm still trying to get mine at Backdoor and Pipe. So it was actually it was great in a way. Like, there was no pressure. They weren't watching us. They weren't hounding us to like compete or to surf better, or to move your arm this way and do this. They kind of weren't even watching until we were like 12, 13. And then they're like, whoa, wait, these kids kind of like it. And I catch myself today doing that with our niece, Uncle Derek's granddaughter. She's loving it. She goes out by herself, just wants our attention and wants to surf with us. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're doing exactly what Uncle Derek and Dad did to us to aid us. So it is so funny, but I think you learn to want it more, and then
Yes.
then it gets serious real quick.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the other thing I think is growing up on the North Shore. It's so much there. It's like hard to escape it. I would imagine. Did you go to Sunset Beach Elementary?
Oh yeah.
And were you in the same grade as John?
Yeah, I grew up with John. John was a year younger than me in school, but yeah, we're partners in crime.
Yeah. So that was like kids were going to school barefoot, like straight out of the surf. Yeah.
We'd leave our boards either at John's house across the street, or we could dawn patrol and leave our surfboards in the classroom. Like, that's how,
Incredible.
that's how supportive Sunset Elementary was for all the surfers. And it was the best way to grow up, for sure.
And so you started competing. You started winning pretty quickly, I imagine. Many Hoonies, then into
Yep.
the girls, women's division. What age did you turn pro?
Yeah, started competing probably around like 9, 10. Met Carissa pretty young, met my number one rival very young. I was like, who is this girl that keeps beating me? So yeah, we had a good rivalry, but turned friendship very quick, and kind of pushed me, to be better and to get better quick. And then I hopped on the QS at probably 16, but slightly by default. My dad and brother were traveling doing the QS, and he was like, you can't stay home alone. I'm sorry. You have to come to Margaret's with us. And I was like, ew, no, I don't want to go to Margaret. Like, I just thought it was like this big, scary, weird wave. And I ended up going that year when I was 16, and it was small, and I made the quarters, and that was a 6,000. And then I went to US Open. I made the finals, the youngest final in history is Malia Manuel and I. And so I had a second, a fifth, And then and then it was Haleiwa, and it was a really fun year, just super rippable rights and lefts. And I was in another final. I got 4th place in that final, and boom, I was on tour by accident.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did contests feel natural?
That year, like, for sure, because I didn't even know where I was or what I was doing, and I was getting results. And then you get on tour, you quickly realize how serious the tour is. And the first year was a breeze. It was fun. It was carefree. There were a lot of girls retiring. Megan Abubo, who I grew up looking up to and kind of hopping in her car to go surf my whole life. It was her last year on tour. It was Melanie Bartel's last year on tour. So I think me coming in fresh and energized, I just had a really good year, rookie year. I think I finished 4th place. But it was because it was like changing of the guard, like those girls were over it, and I was just coming in all energized. And then quickly did I realize, like, whoa, this takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of mind strength. And I started catching myself like year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, really struggling to like stay headstrong in competition. And yeah, I feel like I was on tour for 11 years, but damn, it got like harder and harder mentally. It was weird.
Well, it's interesting because knowing your father and your uncle, they were both great competitors. Like, they seem to just be naturally smart, savvy, shrewd competitors.
Yeah.
But then your brother Mason's like carved out an entirely different place that's way away from contests. I mean, even though he competes wonderful, like he fabulously. I've watched him, you guys both, the last couple of days.
Yeah.
He definitely knows how to put on a singlet and do it all, but it seems like that's not the direction he's gone. So I guess like having your brother as sort of a sparring partner, someone to inspire you, someone probably you wanted to impress, being the little sister.
Absolutely.
When you went in the direction of contests, was Mason as into that as you were?
Mason was, growing up he competed a lot, and it was super hard because my dad was like that genius competitor and just like so ferocious without even showing. And then Uncle Derek, same thing. Maybe Uncle Derek even like funnier and gnarlier than Dad. And then Mason and I totally have the competitive gene. Like, we'd throw backgammon boards at each other's heads when we were kids, and just the craziest you could be as a kid being competitive with each other. But then, I don't know, we get so much slack for not competing well in a jersey, and it's just like, wait, we have won a lot. Like, Mason's won Sunset several times. He has a quarterfinal finish at Bell's, at semi at Pipe, Masters. Like, I've won 10 QSs that I feel like everyone forgets about. Because we get so much slack for maybe not being the best competitors, especially now. Like, I read comments all the time on Surfline and Stab and everything, and it's like, too bad they suck at competing. And I'm like, wait, what?
Wow.
You can't be on tour for 11 years and suck at competing. But yeah, we definitely aren't walking away with like the competitor title.
Is that something, do you feel, so you're off the tour, and are you fighting to get back on, or are you done?
Done.
You're 32.
Yes.
Okay. So is that something that, do you feel like it was like unrealized potential in you, or when you reflect on your competitive years, how does it sit with you?
I'm kind of like right in the middle of like, I'm surfing better than ever now, and I wish I approached the tour with the mindset I have now of just like, go kick the tail, go surf as hard as you can, and have all this newfound like confidence that I have now. But at the same time, I reflect and I'm like, hey, you did a great job. You won.
Sure.
My dad always reminds me, he's like, hey, you won in almost every country you've been to. Spain, Japan, France, Australia, you list all the countries and you're like, I've won there. But it's like, no one else remembers.
Right. Interesting. What about growing up on the North Shore, which is surfing's mecca, as they call it?
Yeah.
And having, great waves literally in your backyard. Going out on the tour, what was it like to sort of put on a wetsuit for the first time, go to cold places, be out in the world?
Yeah. Definitely putting on wetsuits and stuff was a challenge when I was a junior. I would like think during Christmas time and stuff, I'd be like, we grew up very closely with the Andino family, and we'd visit them every summer for a few months. And then during Christmas, I'd look at my dad and be like, so Kalohe's putting on a wetsuit right now and going surfing? And like, I would just trip that young kids could like handle that. And yeah, I definitely knew how lucky I was to live in Hawaii in those winter months. And then starting to travel, probably like France, Portugal, and Bells were like the coldest places I had to go to. And it was always a challenge to like want to surf again, you know, after my heat. I'd be like, I don't want to surf again. But yeah, just getting better at that. And yeah.
And what was the most surprising thing about being on the tour?
The most surprising thing about being on tour was the level of professionalism. Like everyone was super tapped in, and everyone had a good regime and good coaches and good money. You know, when I started, my dad would remind me like, hey, I used to get paid this when I win a contest. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So it was very there, like it was very an elite world tour, and you felt that when you were there. But then on the same like side, it was like that was your family. The whole tour was like they're your biggest competitors, but like you're staying in the same house as your competitor. You're going to dinner with different groups of competitors every night, and that's something so special. And now I'm sitting here with Adriano and Parco, and it's like those were two people that I saw a lot for 11 years of my life.
Yep. Yeah, it's such an interesting thing that with the tour, and it is such a tight-knit group, and in many ways your fellow competitors are like the people you have the most in common with in the entire world. They're the ones that understand what it's like, the kind of psychology, the challenges, all the stuff that plays in your head. But then at the same time, like at any given moment, you might have to compete against them and then suddenly put on the sort of like war paint and go.
And there's the biggest jinx in surfing that whoever you stay with, you're going to draw.
Yeah.
And I started staying with Steph a lot, and I was like, damn, I should pick someone else.
Right.
Yeah,
That's so funny.
Pretty funny.
What about the thing that I always find really interesting is when you're coming up the ranks and you have people you admire, and then all of a sudden it seems to happen quickly. Suddenly you're like, they're your peers. I mean, I remember as a former pro surfer, I remember like the guys who I was competing against on the tour, I still had their pictures up on my wall in my bedroom, you know?
Sick.
What was that? What was that experience like for you to suddenly, like, for instance, Steph, right?
Yeah. I met Steph when I was 13, and Rochelle Ballard brought me to Australia my first time ever when I was 13. And so, yeah, I met Steph immediately, and I was pretty lucky to grow up on the North Shore. You see all the pros very young, you know, and Taj Burrow would come over for Thanksgiving, or just like, I was pretty spoiled in a sense of like knowing all my heroes at a very young age, and I was very aware of that. And I had Mick and Taj and Serena Brooke and Rochelle and everyone on my wall. And then being friends with Steph that young, and then I guess I never had to like, I never got the lines blurred of like idol, hero, friend, competitor. Like it was always came as like one package to me.
No, well, that maybe living at Sunset Beach, that would make sense.
That's why,
because those people are all sort of at least in the winter months. They're like, you see them in Foodland, you see them like getting a plate lunch.
It's too normal.
Yeah,
It's too normal to see them, and even like Kelly and Andy. It's like as big of heroes they are, and they're also a part of my life. From a very young age.
Yep. Being a ho, did it feel like pressure? Was there a thing of like, I've got to carry the family name? And
I was asked that a lot, but honestly, like I think I ran with being the first girl. I didn't like have anything to compare to.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, there's no pipe masters, you know, but now there is. But I felt like there was not much to compare me to besides like, my Uncle Derek's a world champ. You better try and be a world champ.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt for Mason, if anything. I felt like there was a little more pressure on him. And then, I got to just run and forge my own path.
Yep. What about Pipeline and Backdoor? Your dad and your uncle and your brother
Yep.
spent a lot of time out there.
Yeah.
You put in time out there.
Yeah. Dad is really funny with how he raised us with big waves. Like even surfing Sunset, he'll still paddle out with me to Sunset if it's big and west and gnarly. He's like, I'll come with you. You know, like he's very protective of us in big waves, ironically, even though we're from the North Shore. And so Mason was actually pretty late to the pipe game. You know, I don't think my dad let him surf it until like 16, 17. Whereas like John was already out there at 12, 13, getting little backdoor ones. So we could surf like small backdoor, but like Mason never really surfed pipeline until 16, 17. And same with me, like there was no events for women there. There was no like reason that I needed to be out there. In my prime time of being on tour, it's like we went to Honolulu Bay. We had that contest. When that contest was over, I came home and it was vacation. You know, like I wasn't trying to go out to pipe or backdoor. But something triggered me in like when I was 25. I surfed small backdoor, and yeah, that was fun and thrilling. Whatever, a 4-foot barrel was cool. But Honolulu Bay was firing one year. I think it was like 2016. And I just remember not getting one good barrel in all my heats. I just kept getting like weird ones or not making them. And I lost early, and me and my dad went home, and the swell, that same swell from Honolulu Bay, was tapering. And my dad's like, and I was like, Dad, that sucked. Like, how embarrassed. I'm like, what a, like, unsatisfying end to the season. Like, I didn't get one tube at Honolulu. And he's like, you know what? Backdoor's actually going to be firing this evening. Should we go home and get you out there? And I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, not really thinking about it. Or thinking about how scary Backdoor is. You know, I didn't really process. And then, yeah, we paddled out in November. It was like a November swell, paddled out in that evening. And I just remember everyone was out. Like, every single person. Jordy Smith, Gabby, John, Mason, Uncle Derek, like Koa Rothman. Every single person I knew was out there. And I paddled out, and everyone's saying hi because they were just so shocked to see me out there. And I'm like, why does this feel so like crazy or weird? And then first wave came, and it looked like nothing. It looked like a little wake. And my dad's like, paddle. I was like, huh? It's not even a wave. Like, I thought I was going to get like some rolling weird bomb. And the thing jacked up, and Italo actually tried to go left on it, and everyone was like screaming for me. You can see him like back off in the clip. And I just drop in, just whatever, not even knowing. And yeah, I got my first like backdoor bomb, and the beach like went off, and I went in right away because I was like, I knew I couldn't paddle back out through backdoor because there's bombs coming. And so I went straight in. Everyone on the beach was like cheering and loud, like, yeah. And then I was like, I think I'm good. Like, I don't think I'm going
Quit
back
while
out.
you're ahead.
Yeah, I was like, because it was still like pretty big, and I just got like a sneaky 6-footer that grew to like maybe an 8-footer. But yeah, it was wild. And that started my love for backdoor. And I was like, I want another one. I want a bigger one.
And what's your relationship like now with Backdoor?
And now that there's events there too, there's way more girls in the lineup. Because after that, it was kind of just me and Moana, like splitting peaks perfectly because she's goofy and she'd always go left. And then Carissa, obviously, when she had time between events, she'd put in her time. But yeah, for a while there was just Moana and I. And I kind of just focus on the right still because that's where I'm most comfortable. And it's just getting more and more crowded out there. You know, there's the older generation still out there. Mason's generation is now just like taking over. And then there's Groms that are like insane. They're charging. They're so young, and there's so many of them. And then now there's a whole pack of girls. So it's actually just, it's almost like dangerous how crowded it is. So I really just focus on getting my, like the one I want at Backdoor and kind of going in.
Yeah.
But I would love to get a little more comfortable and get a couple lefts here soon. But it's just been so crowded, I can't even think about it.
Do you get a break, or I mean, do you feel like knowing a lot of the people, right? Like a lot of familiar faces. Are they encouraging? Do they sort of go like?
Oh, absolutely. But also at the same time, surfing is like the most selfish sport in the
Yeah.
world. You'll be out there and like I know Nathan Florence and like Eli, they all have my best interest. But if it's like a bomb and they want it, they're kind of like, you want it, but it's like so half-assed of
Yeah.
of a request. And I'm like, oh, you look into it, go.
I know the selfishness thing is such an interesting one. I've thought about it so much, and I've watched myself think I'm a civilized human being, and then a wave comes at me, and someone takes it, and this like raw animal comes out.
Yeah.
And it's I often think like it's really just how passionate we are. Like
Total.
when that like bump is coming at you, and
Yeah.
swell's moving for you.
Yeah.
It's like you just something
I know,
primal
yeah.
comes out.
Yeah. I like saying that it's more passion than selfishness.
Yeah.
Because it is brutal. I feel bad a lot of the times when I'm on a free surf trip. And yeah, you're just like, I call it playing chess because like, there's a bunch of strangers out in the lineup and you're like literally juking out strangers that you don't even know. Like
Yes.
playing chess with them. They don't even know they're playing chess with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's so good.
It's so bad.
Growing up on the North Shore, at least during the winter months, there's like there are many, many days, probably more than anywhere in the world, where there's regularly sort of like waves at a height and power that are scary. Like, how are you in bigger, heavier waves?
Yeah, I definitely don't have like the Jaws bug or even the Waimea bug. I do see a lot of the younger generation paddling out on Waimea boards and getting that experience, which I really respect. I think I like missed that chapter almost because I was on tour for so long, and when I'd come home, it was just like contest at Honolulu, contest at Haleiwa, and done. Like
Yeah.
just go surf V-Land and get barreled and have fun. But yeah, so I kind of missed the big wave deal.
Yep.
But I'm very comfortable at like Haleiwa and Backdoor, and when I get on a wave, I want to be high performance. So
Yeah.
I think there is like a place right at like 8 foot where it's like I look like I'm longboarding if
Right.
if the wave is too big, I'm like barely doing anything.
Yep.
But yeah, there's nothing more satisfying than like a 6 to 8 foot backdoor barrel to me. That's like all I really want.
Yeah. What is your favorite break and sort of size, and what's like your ideal scenario?
Yeah. I mean, definitely a 4 to 6 foot right hand point break, which I've been chasing for the past few years. I think I've surfed more right hand points like the last 3 years than ever. I'm like, okay, now I need to start going left. This is getting crazy.
This competition here in the Maldives, is it the first time there's what's cool and interesting and sort of very advanced is the fact that there's no distinction between male and female,
Yeah.
although you're the only woman in the event.
Yeah.
But is this the first time you've competed against the dudes?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I did NSSA, and when you're under 10, you were in mini-groms. So I competed against John and Kieran and Koa Smith and all them. So, yeah, it wasn't like too... I actually think I beat Clay Marzo in a heat once. That's like my claim to fame.
Wow, he's so good, that
He's
guy.
so good. But, yeah, so growing up, I did it, and then very quickly, it was like there were so many females, and they pulled it together and had tons of women's divisions right away. So this was funny because I was looking at the like prize points and the money and all everything, and I'm like, oh, is this unfair? But no, it was really fun because it did. It made me like surf out of my skin. Like the twin, I love my twin fins.
Yep.
And my first heat was with Joel on the twin fin, and I like pushed harder than ever. I went to like another level because I don't know, I was sick. I was surfing against a guy, and I was like, I want to try this. I want to beat Joel Parkinson for 3 minutes of this heat.
Right.
Yeah, and it was really funny.
Yeah, that was really fun to watch. What, thinking about your time on tour, what was the worst thing about being on the tour and a competitor?
Everyone would say like your time away from home, but now I'm looking back, I'm like, how come no one just told me home will be there when you're done?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
like it's so obvious that like go enjoy those 10 years. Like
Yep.
don't even come home if you don't have to. Because yeah, I'm now 12 years down the road. It's like home is literally the same.
Yeah.
And all good.
Yep.
So I think I wish I was more present, and there really are no flaws. You're living the dream. You're like
Yeah.
going to all these countries and hanging out with your tour friends. My girlfriends on tour are still my best friends to date, like more than my friends from high school, more than anything. Like they're still my main girls.
Did you ever have that period on the road where you were a couple years, let's say, into it, and you started to see home in a different way? In my case, it was sort of the people I grew up surfing with or went to high school with after I was on the road for a couple of years, and then I was kind of more opened up to the world in a way, and then I went back and I was like, oh, this is just the LA game. It felt like smaller in some weird way.
Totally. I had that more so with friends than like the location of home.
Okay.
Yeah, like pretty quickly after like 1 or 2 years on tour, I realized like all my friends from home were gone, or they like weren't my friends anyway. I was like too different almost.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
And yeah, I was missing everything. I didn't go to one like kid party or like high school party. I didn't do any of that, so I like didn't know anything. Or I grew apart from them very quick. But that's why Laura, Steph, like all those girls are still my best friends. To this day.
Because there's that thing with that when you start traveling, you start to grow very quickly. Like it's this accelerated growth rate, you know. Whereas if you stay at home, maybe you're moving in time with everyone else, your peers.
Exactly, yeah.
And then you go out on tour, and then you're suddenly like, oh, I've been here, and meeting all these new people, and all this stuff kind of happens.
Yeah.
You don't even realize it's happening until you step back and then reflect on it and go, wow, I like that. Those were that was a wild time.
Yeah, I noticed as soon as I was like home for kind of a chunk, and I was like only had Mason to surf with. I'm like, do I have friends here? Like it was kind of funny, but it was just like I only had friends that surfed.
Yeah.
So it really like cut my high school friends in like half or more, So
Did you go to Wailua or Kahuku?
Kahuku,
okay.
Yeah.
And what about how many years now have you been off the tour?
3 years now. This will be my 3rd year off tour.
And what does it feel like to no longer be chasing points, world titles, etc.?
Well, I fell off during COVID, so that was cool because I felt like everyone fell off tour with me because the world just stopped. And then I'd get a couple funny texts, and they like Jeremy Flores was like, "The tour couldn't go on without you," like a joke, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's awesome." And then when everyone did start the tour back up, I missed it for sure, but not as deep as I probably would have if COVID didn't happen. Because COVID like just made me blossom in my free surfing. I started surfing better. I got stronger. I was like working out more. I just like turned into a better human almost. And I was like, shit, I should try again. And then I tried, and I started with a 3rd at US Open. And I was like, oh, this is going to be easy to get back. And then the universe was just like, nah, this ain't for you. Because I lost first round in Portugal and like second heat in France, and then it was kind of all over from there. And but by France, like after losing in France, I like let go of wanting to be back and like really harnessed how lovely life was for me off tour now.
Yeah.
And then things just started happening. Like did electric acid with my brother right away, and that was actually my first time riding a twin fin, and it's just like turned me into a new human.
Electric acid is a surfboard testing.
Yeah.
It's not. People could take that the wrong way.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Especially in our psychedelic revolution.
Yeah, true.
No, but I know what the electric acid is. And what about, did you, stepping off tour, did you ever have that kind of, that thing that happens when, I think sometimes the contests kind of give you this reason, you're like unconsciously just training and always thinking about contests and pushing your surfing in that level. And then when you stop, there's a thing of like, why am I surfing? What is the point of surfing? Did you ever, it's like an existential question.
Yeah.
Did you go through that?
Yeah, absolutely. At the time, I was like really fortunate enough to be dating a snowboarder, so I'd like pull back and not surf all the time, and then come back, and it would teach me like my appreciation for the sport. And I think if I didn't have that, like in the past 10 years, I might have been a little more burnt out. But now I'm like more into surfing than ever, and I'm more into like building my brand, and all these job opportunities are just like our world, with social media and stuff. It's like there's so much opportunity out there, and I feel like it's been endless for me, and really, really inspiring, and a great time.
No, well, that's interesting because I think The tour can feel like the be all and end all, and it's almost like if you were like so many great surfers who come up the competitive ranks, they usually start surf competing at a young age, as you did, as I did as well, and you kind of are almost conditioned to think like that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But then when you do step away and you're no longer sort of beholden to this like calendar of events and places you need to be, you get there's like this newfound freedom of like I can do this however I want.
Yeah.
And especially I would think today with social media and
Yeah.
there are just a lot of ways to be a pro surfer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And having that open schedule and it kind of just gave me creative freedom everywhere with my Volcom collections. Like I choose where I want to shoot them, and then I'll go on an Indo boat trip and shoot the whole collection there and make an edit. And then like I just got to really expand. I felt like my value to brands was way more off tour because I could give them my all.
Yep.
And on tour, it's like you had this funny excuse. You're like, they'd be like, can you do this interview or can you go do this photo shoot? And it's like, oh, I might surf a heat tomorrow.
Yes.
And so it's like you got out of everything because you were on tour, but it's like you're getting paid this much and they can't use you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like my value has definitely gone up off tour because I work harder and smarter.
Do you feel like your surfing has changed? And I mean that in the sense of like when you're competing, there's a judging criterion that everyone is sort of adhering to.
Yeah.
And looking at your brother as a great example of just this incredibly expressive, free in every possible way surfer.
Yeah.
Has it opened up for you? Do you feel like you're drawing different lines or trying different things?
I feel like I'm probably the most toured out free surfer. I don't know if it's just like, yeah, I don't know why, but I do feel like I still surf a lot of waves. Like I'm on tour, like big open first turn and this and change variety. And like, yeah, I definitely like live by the criteria still.
Okay.
Which is not a terrible thing. Because the tour does teach you so many great things, you know?
Yeah.
And even like competition teaches you such good human qualities. You know? It gives you determination and goals and humbleness. And like, I would never, ever discredit the tour. It's done everything and more for me.
Yeah.
And and a lot of free surfers are like the core lords, you know, that are like laugh at competitors. But it's like, I don't know, at the same time, the tour has like groomed me to be who I am today. And yeah.
No, I appreciate that. I think that's actually very insightful because I think about that a lot. And there is something in the competitive ranks. There's almost something militant about it in terms of like, you think of the military as like, you know, wake up, take a shower, make your bed, eat well. There's all these things that are in our lives. Like life can go so out of control, and when you have those sort of foundations or those things just hold you up, you know. And competitive surfing really it teaches you these things that are life lessons.
Yeah, I think every like young kid should just for a little bit, even if you don't like it or you don't love it, all good, but you learn like these very simple human qualities that are stick with you for life, you know? Yeah.
What's exciting now off the tour for a couple of years? What fires you up on surfing? What's inspiring you?
Definitely new equipment. Just being on a different equipment and having different feelings. I think that's where I did break away from the tour, is like I didn't want to ride the traditional thruster, and it's just like so much more leg effort to like go and rip the bag out of a wave on a thruster.
Yeah.
Like so just having these new feelings and like even slowing down a little bit on a mid-length or a longer twin, you know, just to surf for the feeling now, you know, not for the score.
Yeah.
But I do catch myself a lot of the time surfing for the clip.
What about, who are your inspirations? Who are your heroes? Who are the folks you look up to?
Growing up and until now, it's like Mason and Steph are my 1 and 2, or my 1 and 1. They've definitely inspired me on all aspects of life, and just both of their mentalities are really like even keel, calm, cool, collected. But pretty fiery and
Yeah.
inspiring on a lot of levels. So yeah, they've been my number one forever.
And what projects are you working on? What are the things that you're doing right now?
So besides, I've been really fortunate to do a lot of collections with a lot of my brands and like the Volcums and Reefs and Swatch. And it's been really fun to get to tap into this like designer mode. And like everything I do with Volcom or Reef is like things that I would want to put in my suitcase. It's like very, I don't want to like waste, you know, I want to make sure that everything I'm doing like makes sense. It's not just like making another t-shirt. It's like everything I'm designing is like for a purpose.
Yeah.
And now stepping into this new world of really fun surfboards, I am starting a female board label with Matt Parker, and it's called XO Coco, and yeah, it should be launching soon. And it's there's no, when you walk into a surf shop, there's no like female surfboards. It's like the stock dimensions are universal, but all like our feet size aren't universal. Like a women's foot is on average a lot smaller than a male foot, and that goes to show like we should be on narrower boards than a male, and even if we're both 125 pounds, you know. So it's really tapping into that. You look at snowboard brands and you go on their websites and you go to buy a snowboard, there's male and female. It's like it's very clear that we should not be riding the same stock dimensions.
Yep.
And so to be the first brand to maybe just hack into that.
Wow.
And and we don't want to like pink it and shrink it. Like we don't want to make everything pink and say it's a girl brand, but we'll make it really cool. You know, we want green and blue and orange, and I'm pretty tomboy at heart, so it's like I want this to be just cool and fun and work really well.
That sounds so fun. Designing collections for Volcom and Reef. Do you have fashion inspirations, icons?
Absolutely. I think this generation is like filled with great inspiration and people to look at. But I've always kind of just, all my inspirations are like for the resort, like what you'd pack in your suitcase for the Maldives. And now as I get older, it's like, oh, I so want to be covered from the sun. Like, so I do a lot of button-ups and blouses, and what material's the most like linen, and just things like that. Just being really conscious with what I'm designing and make sure it serves a purpose on many levels, because we do all collect so many things.
Yeah.
I'm realizing it in my 30s, and it's like I don't want any more things unless they serve a huge purpose.
Yes, you know, I think the lifestyle that we're living right now here in the Maldives, it really does force you to like pare down to the essentials.
Totally.
And it really anything extra, you literally feel the weight of it. Like you're just dragging along stuff you don't need, you know?
Yeah. And for surfing, it's like you're in these crazy warm places and you want sun protection and bigger waves. I want board shorts. And then, you know, I'm just like really try to tick all the boxes. And you want a dressy shoe for the night. And then you want just this very universal sandal that can take you everywhere. And so it's been really, it's almost been easy to design. Everyone's like, do you go to fashion school or this or that? And it's like, no, I do it solely off like my life on the road and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. I know what bikinis don't stay on. I know what, what materials might be too hot in the Maldives or Indonesia. And so just making sure everything's super on point.
Yes, yeah. What about you? Where do you live?
I still live on the North Shore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you live with your dad, brother?
Yep, I live with my dad and brother, and I'm building my first home at Rocky Point.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what is a typical day in the life, let's just say wintertime when there's waves? How does it go?
Wintertime, we're all home. It's incredible. And we all wake up early, my whole household. Dad comes upstairs and usually clings around pots and pans and wakes us up by accident. And we have coffee, and everyone kind of just says where they're going to surf or what direction it is. I feel like my dad and I tend to surf more of the same waves than Mason. Mason will usually go on the rocks or somewhere weird that we don't want to go. And then if the girls are in town, like Laura, Steph, or whoever, it's kind of like linking up with them for lunch and another surf. And yeah, life on the North Shore in the winter is so simple and so great. And I'll never, ever take it for granted.
That's so cool that you and your dad get to surf together.
Oh, we surf together a lot. He's by far my favorite surf partner and like my main one. Like he's my number one.
That is so cool. Is it something where you've just been doing it so long he doesn't even realize like what a rare thing that is for like a father and daughter to be surfing sunset together or what have you?
Actually, we were talking about it lately. It's people have been coming up to us because I am 32. My dad's 66. That is crazy to still be like besties and like driving in the same car and like, where are you gonna surf? No, please paddle out with me, please. Like I'm begging him or he's begging me. Like it's rare.
Yeah.
And but we do get a lot of compliments in the water, and everyone's like, man, I hope we're like this. So we kind of been looking at each other like, oh, this is something like truly special. And but yeah, it takes everyone else telling us to kind of make us like look at each other and be like, damn, yeah, this is sick.
Yeah, you guys are like you're like a fairy tale, although you wouldn't
we
necessarily
don't know. Yeah,
see it.
there's no way.
Yeah, and also being on the North Shore, there's a lot of it. Like you've got the Florence family nearby, and they're a fairy tale as well.
Oh yeah.
But I remember, so your dad's 66. I remember being at this contest. It was the Azores World Masters Championships in the Azores, and your dad and your uncle were there, and I had really nice times with them. I was really happy to get that time in with both of them, and especially your uncle.
Yeah.
But I remember watching your dad surf, and I remember going, he's definitely the best 60-year-old surfer in the world. And looking at your dad now and seeing the clips and the barrels he's getting, does he do anything other than surf? Does he train? Does he do? How does he keep that thing going?
Yeah, that's honestly like top 3. One of the most frequently asked questions is, what does your dad take, or what does he do, or what is he this? And I'm like, lysine? Like I don't know. No, he really doesn't do anything crazy. He is getting a lot healthier now. You know, you go check your heart, your cholesterol, your this, your that. So diet wise, he's getting healthier. And then I have a great partnership with Thorne, which is one of the best supplement brands in the world. And so I'm always like giving him this. I'm like, okay, so this is like Gatorade. This is like da-da-da. So I've been slowly starting to like open him up to like the vitamin world and just little supplements, you know, not much. But he truly just loves surfing, and he knows that's the only exercise he wants to go do. Yep. And he knows he needs to do exercise. So it's like the love of surfing. He changes his fins to get a new spark or a feeling if he's getting bored, but he really doesn't do anything incredibly different than any other surfer Joe.
It's really inspiring to see. And he's got the spark in his eyes and the mischief and all the great stuff that comes from being in the water, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like it keeps you light as you get older. What about yourself in terms of outside of just surfing? You mentioned supplements. Like what health and fitness stuff do you do?
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in health and longevity and how it truly can like uplift your game. Like I'm more in tune right now with my body than I was on tour, and I think that's a big reason I'm surfing better than ever. And it's just like, damn, I wish I did this 10 years ago. But so supplements, exercise, I don't know why, I'm just a little more into it now than I was on tour. I would train and stuff, but it's almost like I was training because I had to, not because I wanted to. And that's the biggest difference. And I think just health, vitamins, supplements, training.
What kind of training do you do?
I do a pretty simple training. It's called functional training, and it's all like you could do it in your hotel room, and then you can add weight if you want. And I learned how important feeding your muscles are after, you know, just diet, supplements, anything. It's like that's 50% of exercising is how you take care of yourself after. And that's been like my cheat code to 32 is like I look and feel better than ever, and I know that's why.
What about, this is kind of an odd question, but as a girl and having a brother who's a couple years older than you and who's a great, great surfer, so you're genetically, coming from the same bloodlines, is your training or fitness different to what Mason's is? Like, I guess what I'm asking is, for girls, or is it a different approach that you would take to being a great surfer and extending your surfing life than a guy would?
I mean, there shouldn't be much of a difference, but there is, because Mason doesn't do anything. And I don't know, but I take this thing called amino complex, and it just feeds your muscle. It's just aminos, like it's what we get out of food. It's why you eat like chicken or meat, And we were in Mexico in Salina Cruz, and Mason's like looked at me and he's like, "What are you doing different that I'm not?" Because we were on a 12-day surf trip, surfing the same amount of time, like blah blah. And he looks at me, he goes, "What are you doing different?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've just been taking these aminos every day." And he goes, "Because damn, anything you want to accomplish in life, you should do it this week." Because he just like saw a difference. And I was like, "You could do this too." But it's like, everyone operates on a different level, and it's really what your like brain tells you. Like Mason says he doesn't need a workout, so he doesn't, and he's one of the best in the whole world.
Yep.
So.
Well, I think that thing, and this goes for your brother and your father, is that like just being such a surf dog, like just wanting it. That is like the best training for surfing is surfing.
Always.
What about outside of surfing? What are you interested in?
I mean, lately I think just design and fashion has been consuming me, and it's a hobby and a joy, so it's not like exhausting to like keep up with all these collections and stuff. So yeah, that's been so fun. And besides surfing, that's been taking a big part of my life. Health, like since COVID, I've really tapped into training and enjoying it, and reaping the benefits of it, surfing stronger and longer. And so I think health, fashion, just future plans, the board label has been incredibly fun to work on, and stickering and trying a lot of boards. Yeah. It's been hectic. I've been almost like giving boards to friends, like, "Can you try this one for me?" Because it's been that overwhelming. But no, it's been the most incredible time and season of my life for sure.
That's really cool. And so, future, what are you looking forward to? What are you working towards?
I'm definitely working towards just still progressing, my surfing. This week in the Maldives proved to myself that like you can surf at such a high level still, and there's going to be a lot more opportunities like this event. Everyone's starting to find the magic in these invite events. Like Pipe Masters is now invites only, and then Jeremy Flores is doing an event in France next month where it's like you ride a twin fin and you team up with someone. So it's like these invites are becoming more common. Yep. And they're just as much like hype and love and recognition as some of the tour events. And I think people just love to see us put a rashi back on. And, so just it's like always staying fit and ready. And you never know when you're going to get the wave of your life.
I love it. Thank you, Coco.
Of course.
That was really nice.
Too easy.
Soundings is produced by me, Jamie Brisick, and Jonathan Shiflett. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Our theme song is Give Me a Wave by Oscar Matsumiya and Poslin Chanton. Soundings is brought to you by the Surfer's Journal, a reader-supported publication, made possible by sponsorship from FCS, Finisterre, Howler Brothers, Patagonia, Rainbow, Vans, and Yeti. The journal is published bi-monthly. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to visit surfersjournal.com and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening to Soundings. We appreciate you, and until next time.